For decades, Washington's policy towards Cuba was based on two things: the carrot and the stick. The stick is the US economic embargo, which can only be lifted by Congress. The carrot, however, was the tantalizing wet-foot, dry-foot policy, a measure which granted Cubans who made it onto US soil the right to stay without a visa. Tens of thousands of Cubans made the journey every year, with many risking their lives in the Florida Straits in inflatable rafts or unseaworthy vessels. Since it was introduced in 1995, the Cuban government has blamed the measure for the brain drain on the island. So when President Obama reinstated diplomatic ties with Cuba and visited the country last year, we can safely say the Castro government will have urged him in no uncertain terms to lift the policy. Despite the temptation of the free entry to the United States, the decision to remove it was broadly welcomed by some in Havana.
On the one hand, it is good because we as Cubans, we are more certain that we cannot go through this route and there won't be as much loss of human life, nor so much blood spilling in the sea. For every boat that goes there, there are thousands and thousands of Cubans who take crazy blind risks without knowing if they can survive or not.
It was hurting our young people especially. Among the majority of people who attempted the journey, there was a large percentage of failure and loss of life on the way.
For their part, the Cuban authorities echoed the statement from the White House and applauded the move, particularly a decision to lift a policy which encouraged Cuba's doctors and nurses to abandon the country.
What we see in this joint declaration is an important step for Cuba's national interest, but also for the national interest of the US. That said, I think this question of whether the Trump administration will support the new accord must be answered by the new government of the United States.
Perhaps the key line about this change is revealed in the statement from the White House. By taking this step, we are treating Cuban migrants the same way we treat migrants from other countries. Now, that's something that the government of Raul Castro has been calling for decades. But undoubtedly there are Cubans out there who would have been hoping to use the wet-foot, dry-foot policy one day and who, on hearing this news, had their hopes dashed for a future in the United States. Will Grant, BBC News, Havana.